Hi, John here. This is part 2 of our heat pump installation video, air source heat pump. It's a long video. I did canvass opinion on my YouTube channel before I started, and the majority of people were happy with the longer video as long as I put chapters in so people could skip about if they wanted to. So I have indeed done that. So you'll find chapters at the bottom on the timeline and also in the description below. I'm not going to go through a recap on what's been done already. If you wanted to see that video, then I'll put a link to it up in the top corner. Other than that, we're going to kick straight off with day one with one person on site, which was Harry, the electrician, doing some pre-wiring ready for when the guys arrived in day 2. One of the key things is looking after the workers using the best ingredients. Julie made some chocolate brownies. Their finest chocolate colettes. I also found that coffee machine and tea machine, i.e. the kettle, was used extensively over the course of 6 days. Yes, that's right, it took 6 days from start to finish to install our air source heat pump. Oh, this is an interesting photo. I took this before we moved into our house. This was a new build house. This was taken in April 2001. Plumbers had left this access hatch and I just snapped it because it was open. And it was interesting actually when I've looked at it today is that you can see there's a massive big hole which is still there. We found it when Harry came to fit the wiring. Thank you, David Wilson Builders, for leaving a massive hole. Here's a closer view of that same hole. You can see the wall there with dot and dab plasterboard. Plumbing there, the 2 pipes on the left are from the boiler, flow and return, and then at the top there on the left hand side there's the micro bore. No idea what that other pipe is, but I'm sure it's something. Some people will know about it, I'm sure. I think I said in the last video I'm no plumbing expert. All I'm going to chat about is sort of what I know from my consumer level of experience. Be prepared for chaos. Depending on the level of sort of retrofitting you're doing or changing of radiators and what have you, will really depend on how much chaos there is. Thankfully, because I'd spotted that hole in the floor, Harry, the electrician, was able to capitalise on that, move the bed out of the way, pull the carpet back and quickly gain access to that area. And then he was going to run cabling, as you'll see in a minute. He then called me in and said, come on, you need to have a look at this. So this was when we had our extension done, we had new cabling put in, and this is for the induction hob. And you can see there little rodent marks. They'd eaten through the outer casing, through the insulation, and right through to the metal. Here's another view of that massive hole that was left by the builders. And that bright light outside is the incoming cables for the solar. Quite a draft came through there. So they're the 2 areas, and you can see there I've circled where the big hole is on the right, and then that cable that Harry spotted was just dangling there, very close to the copper pipes. That was a bit of a problem. So a temporary repair, then Harry did sort that out later and make that good. Before the floor went back down, we decided to put some rat poison down and also obviously fill in the hole that's there. So that's Harry working across the floor, drilling neat little holes, running the cables under the floor. Thankfully the plumbers had drawn on the floorboard where the pipes are running, and Harry's marked out the joists there. Harry ran cables up in the wardrobe, tucked in behind the facade there, you can't see it. Moving to the top end to gain access into the loft. He was also working in the airing cupboard, so to make life easier for him, I'd already pulled off the door from the airing cupboard to give better access. Plus the door opens towards the stairs, so it's a real pain coming up and down the stairs. You keep walking into the door, so it was easier when it was off. Lots of stuff, as you'll see. This is just Harry's gear. So cable drums, loads of cable everywhere. This is the Cat 6 cable which was running in for the network for the open energy monitoring setup, because I wanted that on Ethernet rather than Wi-Fi. This is the open energy monitoring kit, which I'll go through in a little bit more detail later. I also was prepared for power off, so the EcoFlow came out and was fully charged just in case we needed it. Oh yes, I did cover this previously in the other video, but just to reiterate, I marked out the location of where the heat pump would be going as per the planning approval, and the pipes would be running up the side of the house in front of the chimney breast there and going in at the top into the loft. This is the consumer unit as is, with the 2 generation meters, one for each of the 2 solar arrays. And then this is the controls for the gas boiler, the hot water and heating controls timer, and then the gas boiler. This was the wiring from the wardrobe running up into the loft, going all the way across, ready for the install of the kit up there. I also downloaded all the apps that I needed. I wasn't too sure which one I wanted, so I downloaded everyone. There's eRelax, vSmart and my Vaillant. In the end, it was the Senso app that I needed. Eventually, everyone who's on the Senso app will be migrated to the my Vaillant app, but waiting for a migration code, upgrade code for that to happen. Not too sure what the timescale is on that. Day 2 arrived. This was a busy day, so we had 4 people on site all day from 8 till 4. With 4 people on site, everyone is doing a job. It's quite difficult to keep up with everyone. I have filmed as much as I can over the course of the 6 days and captured most of the activities, but some I missed because I was elsewhere filming. This is draining the radiator system, the old radiator system. Lots of trays, lots of hose pipes, all running everywhere. The guys were really good. We didn't have any leaks or wet spillages. And then we had a bit of chaos because Sainsbury's arrived to deliver shopping to one of our neighbours. And then also at the same time we had the heat pump and cylinder arrive with another driver. And then at the exact same time we had another delivery arrive with all the radiators in it. So yeah, it was all a bit hectic. So this is Mark from JMR Heating and Energy unwrapping the heat pump. As Harry there just walked past, the electrician, so they were all pitched in and helped.
So you couldn't use it? Oh, did they?
And this is where I sort of missed out on a little bit of an activity. Mark and Harry were unwrapping the heat pump. We decided that it would just fit down the side of the house rather than having to walk it all the way round. They could get it through down the side of the house. And I missed them walking it down, so it was already in place by the time I got back to having a look at it, because the radiator man had arrived and I was filming the radiators arriving. So yeah.
Get my stuff as done as possible today if I can. Yeah, well, I say if we get the heat pump down there, you know roughly where it's going to go. Heat pumps, yeah, that's ready in that corner of the loft. So I've just literally got to drill out, conduit down. I've just got some solid. As long as I've got the cables for like the immersion and everything else, I can wire it all up. Well, that's you've already got that on the Eddy anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all that stuff's already there. So I just need the long enough flex. But I've got the cylinder in that here, so there's no reason why. Yeah, that's fair. I can help you anyway. Yeah, you can do that. You've got another pair of hands today, haven't you? I can help you take stuff out. Yeah.
There's a lot of boxes.
Amount of stuff.
I know.
Heat pump instant. What is anyone doing, mate?
Yes. I missed it.
It was tight down that gap.
Yeah, I can imagine.
All good stuff. They're the 4 carrying straps that come with the heat pump. But they managed to get it down there without any problems. And then 16 radiators to unload. Now, thankfully, I'd already made lots of space in the garage to accommodate all of the equipment when it arrived. I wasn't too sure what day it was arriving, and thankfully it arrived on the day when the guys started, so they could use it almost straight away, so it didn't have to sit anywhere, but all the radiators did have to be stored somewhere until they got round to using them. So while all this is happening, the other guys still in the house are draining the radiators, taking them off, and then stacking them outside. You'll notice here they turn them upside down so they don't leak water everywhere. Fairly obvious really, but never really thought about it. This is the big monster radiator. This is a big K3 radiator, which is 2 meters long, 600 millimeters high. And again, the easiest route for that is down the side.
Strategically placed rocks, which I probably should have moved.
It's just a step there. Coming up.
Step coming up.
In a sec. We have to go that way a bit. We go down the wall side. And then flip it. That's it.
Again, this is just day 2, remember. So old radiators out, and here's our 10mm microbore. Draining the hot water tank. This is Mark and Andrew, and they were discussing the approach for plumbing.
Just a Talon clip, lip it out straight into 15, because otherwise we have to use the reducers on it. And if you ever wanted to change them in the future and that, it's the same thing. So at least we've got with the 15s.
Yeah,
we can do it that way. Yeah, right. Flatten out that pipe. So that's nice and flat then. Then we'll go 10, 15, put that in 15, and then up to the valve.
No problem.
So then that will just sit underneath it then. And it gets rid of all these bent... I mean, that's just flat on the back there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very poor.
Yeah.
The approach was to cut the 10mm microbore so it could be nice and straight and reduce the kinks in it, and then come off on that from 10 to 15mm to plumb the radiators into 15mm with all new pipework, which was agreed with Mark at the time of the survey. So again, if you've got microbore, you might want to think about how they do that. In the previous video I showed you, and yours may be the same, but all my microbore on the bends up to the radiators was flattened. So we really were going to impact flow rates. And as you probably know, flow rates for air source heat pumps are very, very important. There was loads of boxes, curious boxes, loads of bags, loads of waste was starting to accumulate as well. Radiators were stacking up as they were removed. They did the upstairs radiators first, and then, as you'll see, the next day they did the downstairs radiators. Here's Andrew in the garage trying to find the radiator that he needs and all of the valves and fittings. Found it, off he goes. So yes, you do need quite a bit of space if you're having a lot of radiators swapped.
Yeah, that's the 6B15, so that one.
You alright?
Yeah, I've got it, yeah.
Okay.
So this is the master bedroom one.
Mark was busy working in the airing cupboard, removing the old cylinder, hot water cylinder. He's keen not to leave us without any hot water, which is indeed what they achieved. He managed to pull this out, put in the new one, plumb it all up in the day, which was good news. Here's the old one sitting in the garage waiting for scrap. More accumulation of scrap appearing. Stickers on the top of the heat pump telling you where and where you can't position it in terms of allowable ventilation and spacings. This is for the R290 gas that it has in this particular heat pump. It's heavier than air, so it drops down if it leaks. Electrical connections, and then how to carry it, how to move it, how to secure it, blah blah blah. This was a curious package, which is the flexible hoses that go onto the back of the heat pump. You can see the rubbish pile is picking up. You may notice that the heat pump isn't actually on its tape at the moment. It was moved to the correct position before it was fully fitted in. Draining the hot water. We had lots of pipes outside at that time, draining stuff. The back of Mark's van, it's very organised, kitted out. New pipe work there, 35mm and 22mm. Apologies, this is out of focus, but hopefully you can see there the tank has been removed. This is the old pipe work, flow loop, fill loop. Eddy was disconnected, literally, was cut off in its prime. Bag of bits. Interesting, nothing was sort of thrown away, so at the end you'll see there's a professional waste collection team come and collect everything. So they recycle all that they can recycle. The metal goes to scrap for sale, and there's also all the timber and all the other bits and pieces are recycled. I was saying about lots of gear. There is tools everywhere, so be prepared for a bit of chaos. This is a comparison between the current radiator and the new radiator that's going in. So the K3 is on the floor, so 3-panel. The K2 is behind it, and you can see the K3 is slightly longer, 2-meter one as opposed to an 1800 compact 600 by 2 meters, heavy, almost 100 kilograms. Because the heat source were designed for 40-degree flow at -2, and when it's -2 outside, we needed bigger radiators to emit the heat in the room. This is the office, so a single panel radiator, and this is the new radiator, so a K2 radiator going in its place, again slightly longer, slightly deeper. Another example there, this utility room, a really diddy radiator. These are 2 radiators which are going in the kitchen area, they're both the same. This is the front room or lounge. This was the baseboard that the old cylinder was sitting on. Mark is doing new pipe work here for the heat pump to come down into the uniSTOR. First radiator in. More drainage. These are downstairs radiators now, so that the guys had sort of finished upstairs. Amber, our cat, was not impressed that the cat flap was out of bounds while this was draining. Harry working on the fuse box. Pile of rads are going down slowly. This was Harry's standing cube. More cables. I started collecting manuals, came with each product, picking all of those up. Here's the pipework in the airing cupboard. This is coming from the loft. And as you can see there's the uniSTOR. It's 200 litres, Vaillant uniSTOR. I had good fun taking all the plastic wrap off that. The Vaillant comms and configuration box. Andrew doing another radiator. You see these aren't in exact order. Interestingly enough, our original radiators had earths to them, and I asked about that, and apparently that's not part of the regulations now, they're not needed, so they were removed. All new radiators, the walk-in wardrobe. Harry was dealing with the electrics for the gas, removed the timer controller unit. Harry noticed this, I wouldn't have picked this up, but when he was looking at the consumer unit, he said that it'd been extended, when it had been put in, they'd put the buzz bar at the bottom there and split it, which is absolutely fine, he's saying, but as we're working on it, we might as well just put a new buzz bar in, which is just a one piece. So we picked up a one-piece buzz bar and fitted that. And again, this is the sort of attention to detail that they do, these little jobs, without being prompted for it. They see us something that isn't quite right, can be improved. They've got the wherefore to be able to say, we'll do that, which is good. That happened quite a few times over the course of the installation. The garage gets fuller and fuller with new stuff and old stuff. So loads of tools are kept in there overnight, more rubbish, more new stuff. Radiator pile building, I think that was the total there, a total amount of radiators. All 16 of them, I haven't counted them. So day 3, 3 people on site, no Sparky today, it's radiator day. I've mentioned about protecting the floors, so upstairs they had floor protector, roll and stroll as it's called there. The radiator in the background there, Andrew quite sensibly put it in the middle of the wall for aesthetic reasons. However, after they'd left, I checked the drawers, and I meant to mention it while they were there. The drawers didn't open fully, which may not have been a problem, but it meant that you couldn't actually pull the drawer out if you wanted to get the full drawer out. So if you've got any sort of setups like that, well worth double checking that you've got enough clearance between drawers when you open them. So I had to leave a little note, and that rad was moved in the next day, so that was fine. Lots of stuff kicking about, little end caps and drain valves, more bags of bits, mystery box, I can't remember what was in that. Downstairs is in the office. This is Neil fitting a rad in here. They're going to cut back the microbore. Here's Andrew and Neil fitting the radiator, lifting it in place. So here's the pipework in the loft. Those coming in, you'll see shots from outside, but that's the far end of the house. Running across the back there. There's no insulation on this install yet, so bear that in mind. Coming round the corner into that big grey tank, which is a buffer tank. Just on the other side of that, nearest us, that green and black item is a pump, and then dropping down into the airing cupboard, that 4 pipes that we saw earlier. Here's a little bit closer, it's the buffer tank. So the idea of the buffer tank was we were concerned about, Mark was concerned about the flow rates with our microbore, so we want to go with a 4 pipe buffer. And then this pump will pull that water through. That's your 3-way valve, swapping between heating and hot water, the Honeywell valve. This is the heat meter. That's measuring flow, temperatures, flow rate, etc., etc. Talk more about that later. What's the nice thing, you'll see all those cut-off valves. So every component that's up there has a valve either side of it, so it can be isolated and removed if it needed to be for repair or servicing. So that's the JMR Pico pump. What we found was that this pump was actually quite noisy, and like at 4 o'clock in the morning you could hear that pump running because it's sort of up in the loft. It was pulling the water through, and it was the sort of velocity of the water you could actually hear. So Mark came back and slowed it down, which was okay. We then found out that the system was starting to very quickly cycle. More manuals for me to look through. Day 4, primary pipe work. 4 people on site, so again another busy day. We're starting the outside pipe work now. The pipe work already been done in the loft. I didn't film too much of that, to be honest. I have got some footage of that, you'll see that in a minute. So just checking the alignment of the heat pump. The front to back level is more important than the side to side, because front to back will make sure that the fan bearing is level when it's turning, whereas if it's sloping back or sloping forward, then you're not going to get a good turn on the fan motor, and eventually you'll wear the bearings out. Close up of the spec sheet. Interesting there, you can see there the A7 running at 45 would give you a SCOP of 3.6. It's the flexible kit, which you'll see fitted in a minute. This is a pressure gauge, pressure fill gauge that Mark fitted into the system. There's the mystery box that we were looking at a little while ago. So it's a safety relief vessel. Mega loads of insulation ready to go up into the loft and into the airing cupboard. Harry assembling his new ladder that he picked up. More tools, more pipe, 35mm pipe, waiting to do the outside. And here is Mark starting on that, putting in the brackets, putting in the primary pro insulation. Another delivery arrived. This was mystery package. Yeah, there's our little plugs that fit in those holes. Silicone sealing them in, and if you need access again in the future, you can get into them.
Cable on your head, Mark? Yeah, I got it.
So this is Harry feeding the cabling down to power the heat pump and the isolator switch, which we'll see later. Smacking Mark in the process. Mark's measuring up and aligning the brackets.
Let's just do them up quickly.
Making sure everything's level. This is a cool tool which makes the joint. Fixing down the heat pump. It's a close up of the brackets. Primary pro insulation. This is an antifreeze valve, so we've got pure water in our system, no glycol, and we've got one antifreeze valve fitted at the lowest point. The idea of this is if the heat pump's off and it's static and the water in it freezes, that will vent and get rid of the water to stop it from causing a rupture in the pipework. Again, this will not fitted there at the moment, but it'll all be insulated again with primary pro. More radiators. That's the office radiator. More cups of tea made. That's the radiator where the drawers were hitting, so that was moved across. You see they're down into the radiators downstairs now, working through those methodically. More tools. Everywhere, there's bags of stuff everywhere. Bags of fittings, you name it. So you can see our pipework run is quite extensive just because of where we're located with the heat pump. That's all the rads out. Nail boring the holes for the pipework, the primary pipework, and they've also put the insulation through there as well. So you can see the size of the drill bit there. I can't remember what it is. It's like 4 inches, something like that. Whatever the diameter of the primary pipework is. So you did 2 of those. So that's happening up above while Mark's working down below. Harry's been putting in the wiring for the heat pump monitoring, the Mon HP heat pump monitoring kit. This is the electricity meter that records how much energy the heat pump has been using. Here's the pipe work. Looks a bit odd at the moment because obviously all the insulation isn't there. Mark was waiting for more insulation to arrive, but rather than hold the job up, he's cut little bits to space out, to work out alignment and positioning. And you'll notice that the primary pro there, they have a sealant with it which you use to seal the joints and the gaps. And then there's also a maintenance paint that you can use if you're finding that you've got problems with the surface. Andrew, who used to work for National Grid, is doing a job that he frequently did, which was swapping meters, capping meters.
Yes.
So this was capping the gas. Very simply, it is just putting a little cap in the
Simple as that.
flow into the house, and that's it. That's the gas meter capped off.
National Grid.
Job done.
Right.
Cap off the meter. That shuts off the house then.
Right. Yes, run round, check for leaks.
Turn it back on anyway, and we'll check it in a bit.
Okay.
So this is a cool bit of kit. This is Thorough Flush, and it allows Mark to be able to flush the system. But the good thing is you can adjust the flow rate with this tool, but you can also reverse the flow, so you can pump it in or pull it through. So very good. Everyone going around checking for leaks, doing sort of 1 rad at a time. This was the initial flow of water, which actually wasn't that dirty. I was quite surprised. I thought it'd be worse than that.
It's very clear here.
Yeah. What's the flow like?
Quite low.
Yeah, so I've just got...
Lots of up and down stairs, lots of turning on and off radiators, doing 1 radiator at a time, going around checking for leaks. This was a little job I did, so this was the big hole that we had, if you recall. So I managed to get a brick, chop that up and then fill that in. Harry had already done the wiring and made that safe. Mark was then filling the system, so PuroFill VA, this fills the system to a set standard. I'll put it up on screen because I can't remember the code, but basically it's the same stuff I use when I'm cleaning the car or the windows. All the windows cleaners use it. It's a resin filled reservoir, so it puts in pure water. Don't really know what all of these mean, but he's got readouts there, so we can keep an eye on how much he's putting in and the rate that it's going in. Bleeding the radiators. There's all of the insulation fitted and sealed. See there's one that's not been sealed, so that's yet to be done. amused myself peeling off the stickers. Ugh. Mark's configuring the system here.
Well, indoor temperature, because it's there.
Right. Yes.
See the pressure slowly going up. 1.5 bars is what's expected. And then we're running the system.
Only when, like middle of winter,
Yeah.
if it's like minus
Just to
3 or
make
4.
sure
Yeah,
it
and it's
works.
going at full
It is
charge.
going
It
to full,
did.
yeah.
You'll be pleased to know.
But it's usually a thing when you stand. I was going to say, if you stood the other side of the wall, it's that noise there, that sort of gentle hum that you'd hear if you had the doors open.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying about vibration? Like the thing doesn't even, that's running full pelt
Yeah.
and it don't move.
No.
Mark then does the test of the water, check the quality. In the meantime, I'm also monitoring the system with the open energy monitoring. So this is our first run of the system at 2:30, is that? Yes, about 2:30 on that day. So day 6 dawned, 2 people on site. And this is Neil removing our gas boiler. There's the flue. Draining down the system, get rid of all the bits.
So it should, like downloaded the job yesterday, so that's going to go to them as a contract agreement, and it's not going to have my company on.
So one less gas boiler
Rid of that one.
in the world.
Another one for the scrap heap.
I've contacted Octopus Energy to arrange for the meter to be removed, which will then stop my standing charge. Need to chivvy them up because it's been 4 weeks since I initially contacted them, and they said give us a shout after 4 weeks if you've not heard anything from the team. Yeah, not heard anything from the team. So we need to
Yeah, it's
chase
not
them
bad. I
up.
mean, there's initial quite a bit there, but yeah, no, it weren't horrendous.
This is the gaps left. Needs a bit tidying up. And they're the 2 pipes that are going into the loft, if you remember from the picture previously, where you saw them in the bedroom, a hole in the floor. Neil very neatly chiselled out the bricks there. Thankfully we've got lots of insulation there, which is good to hear. Couldn't find the exact bricks, but these are fairly close, and he's done a good job there putting those in. Put the all-important sticker on there, Heat Geek assured guaranteed install, which means that the installation will meet or hit the defined specifications for how it'll work, operate, and I'll show you those in a minute. This little box is fitted to the chimney breast on the north side. So this is the outdoor temperature sensor. This is the condense pipe, the water drain basically, running around there into soakaway. This has got a little heating element in it, little wire heating element so it doesn't freeze. Guys turned up, this was the following day actually, came to collect all the radiators, take all the rubbish away, and we got a duty of care waste transfer note, which is quite important so you know that the waste has been disposed of properly and not just dumped in a roadside lay-by with all your details on it. So I had a bit of tidying up to do, all the holes and what have you from where the gas boiler was, and things like the thermostat. You don't realise until you don't need these things anymore. You think, oh yeah, there's got to get rid of that. So that's very easy to deal with. So we need got a bit of decorating to do. The cat stayed asleep for most of the 6 days. And yeah, dead impressed with the quality of workmanship from the guys. They've done a really, really good job. And the nice thing is it doesn't finish there. So Mark's already been back once to do the commissioning. And I was saying about removing the buffer tank. So we spent a day beginning of August. That has certainly improved the system. We had the heating on when it was 26 degrees outside. So it'd be interesting to see exactly how the system performs when it's sort of winter time, but early days. So it's coming back in end of October, November to set the system up and balance all the radiators and what have you across the system. This is running at full pelt and you can hardly hear it. This is my reading material. There's a very simple control panel. Probably know me, I don't like things that don't tell you what's going on. So whilst I can set the heating temperature here and the hot water, turn it on, turn it off, and I've got the details here in this Senso comfort control. I also wanted a lot more data to be able to understand what was happening, and that was actually quite key. So this is the heat pump monitoring setup. So heat pump, indoor control unit, you've got electric meters, they're the things going into the consumer unit, the EMON HP and the heat meter. You've seen all of the components, so that's the sort of schematic for it. Here's all the components. There's the heat meter in detail, the EMON HP brains, thing that goes in the consumer unit that measures the electricity consumption. And then this is the app. You can do it on your phone or go on a web browser. It's actually easy on a web browser because it's a bigger picture. So we get a day by day, total since installation on the 5th of July. Doesn't surprise me it's not that great at the moment because you're still setting up the system, so it'll be tweaked and improved. It's also in the summer, we're not running heating, apart from the odd test here and there, as we're just using it for hot water at the moment, which means that your SCOP won't be so good. But this is the beauty of the open energy monitoring setup. This is once the buffer had been removed and the pump had been removed after we were saying it was really noisy. Oh no, it wasn't, beg your pardon. This was after Mark had turned the pump speed down, so it quietened it, and when we were able to monitor what was happening. So you can see there at 6:15 or 18:16 through to 18:30, so not very long at all. The pump has been cycling. This was doing hot water, but if you look at the window there, the copying window is 0.79, so it's not efficient at all, which is why Mark came back and removed the buffer and went straight through with the pipework and removed the pump just to simplify the system, just a straight through system. So our system is actually very straightforward. We've got 35mm primary pipework, no buffer, it's all on one circuit. It's all radiators, although there are TRVs on every radiator, they're all open. So it is an open loop system, so the more simple you can have the system, the more efficient it becomes. You can see there that the performance is a lot better and a lot more expected. But again, it's really difficult to tell at the moment because it's 23 degrees outside or whatever. It's not an ideal condition to run your heating. Before I give you the price, which I said I would do, a very rough idea of some of the costs of the components. So this is our aroTHERM Plus heat pump. This is from Midsummer Wholesalers. 4.5 grand for the heat pump. The uniSTOR 200 litre is £1,300. I then did a similar activity of all the radiators. So here's our 16 radiators that were replaced and the estimated cost again of all of those. So 16 radiators runs at about 3 grand. So you can see there just in those 3 items. And then if you look at 35mm copper pipe, 3 metre length is like £43 ex VAT. So we've certainly got through a few lengths of that. But that was the specs we were designed to, 40 degrees. You can see there the heating SCOP across the year, 4.13, and hot water SCOP at 1.75. So total cost of the install was almost 23 grand. I got the 5 grand off that for the upgrade scheme from Ofgem. So yeah, so 17 grand, almost 18 grand for the install. So by no means not cheap, but I only wanted to do it once and I wanted to have it done properly with a guarantee that it would work, which is why 3 grand's worth of radiators were in there, etc, etc. So yes, certainly do it cheaper depending on your circumstances, and I think that's the key thing, that every install is unique and every installation will need to be quoted and charged for accordingly. And you think about, it took 6 days to install ours with the number of people that are on site, 4 people most of the days across those 6 days, and it soon tots up. Any questions, anything I missed, give us a shout in the comments down below. Thank you for those that are still with me at the end of this, and I will see you on the next video. Alright, take care.